through. We only have 2 agenda items. I can run through those.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Tonight's agenda is very short. We just have the consideration of a contract to provide professional services related to the evaluation of our municipal street tree management program. We talked about that at the last discussion session. And then we have consideration to execute an agreement with Concordia Lutheran Ministries of Pittsburgh. It's a pilot agreement that was settled through court case.
Great, thanks. All right, we'll jump into Activate Uptown. Eric and crew.
Are you gonna have to?
It's just the Eric. He's
Eric well represents. He's got a big team here.
That's right, I'm rolling with the Passion Posse tonight.
The Passion Posse, I love it. Gonna get you t-shirts.
Flashing red arrows should get you through, Eric.
Okay. Not advancing.
He's the arrow keys.
Okay, boom. All right, good evening, Commission. Tonight we're going to be doing a presentation of the Activate Uptown study. So without further ado, I'm just going to get started. We'll do a quick round of introductions. You all know me, so I'll save you that. But for the folks at home, I'm Eric Milliron. I'm the Commercial Districts Manager and Economic Development Officer. And with me, I have Sarah. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sarah Thompson. I'm a principal and landscape architect with Pashak MTR. And with me is
I'm Elaine Kramer. I'm a resident of Mount Lebanon, and I'm a planner and part-time worker at Pashak MTR.
And I know you're nervous. Just speak louder because our wonderful television audience,
Are vast.
microphones don't always, vast television audience don't always pick it up on the microphone, so.
Fair point.
Thank you, Commissioner. So before I launch into the presentation, I just kind of want to level set areas of focus, and then you're going to see that during the presentation. But Activate Uptown is looking at 4 primary nodes: the Clock Tower Plaza, the Portal, which is the stairway connecting Washington Road to the PRT Light Rail Station, Parseway, and Clearview Common. So those are the primary focus areas that we're going to be looking at tonight. So I just wanted to mention that before I kick off with the slide decks here. So to start this off, I wanted to provide a little context and history. We've been looking at the Uptown District for a number of years, and we've looked at it in a number of ways with a number of different studies. Beginning with the comp plan in 2013, when we recognized that the residents wanted to see a vibrant and dynamic central business district, we started working with environmental planning and design on a strategic Uptown plan that looked to bring some of those concepts of activation of the Uptown District. We worked with Evolve to further tease out some ideas. We also worked with the Mount Lebanon Partnership on something that was called the Partnership Placemaking Plan. We called it P3, that brought a number of ideas to the table. And then we also did the Main Street Design Guidelines, all in an effort to capture vibrancy in the Uptown District. So a lot of the ideas and concepts that were in these various plans were aggregated, teased out, and then celebrated more with the Activate Uptown planning process. So there's a lot of thought that's been given, not just in the Activate Uptown process that we embarked on, but in previous iterations. In addition to that, when we were doing the Vibrant Uptown planning, that we wanted to look at that as setting the table for where we're going now with this direction. So just as a reminder, that was the $4 million streetscape project that is complete, where we put in new sidewalks, conduit, dark sky lighting, irrigated planters, native landscapes, and refreshed public spaces. So Clock Tower Plaza is a good example of what that is. So this is the next evolution, and I mentioned the 4 different key nodes. Within those nodes, there's additional sub-nodes, if you will, and we'll go through some of that, but those are the 4 key areas, in which you can see on the slide illustrates that. So to the far left is the Clearview Common node that also encapsulates Alfred Street, Parsway, what I call the portal, which is the stairway that connects, again, the PRT station to Washington Road, and then Clock Tower Plaza, which is currently where East End has a tap room. Okay, it's advancing on the laptop, but not on the screen.
Ian.
It says my internet connection is unstable. Oh, here we go. It's stabilized.
You just have to stand up.
Yeah, this is like rabbit ears, you have to stand there.
Yeah, right. Give me some aluminum foil snack. So Clock Tower Plaza, again, this is located at the mouth of the portal, as you can see there. These are some images of current condition. So you can see where East End Tap Room is. You can see the mouth of the portal in some of these pictures. Sorry, here we go. Okay, so some of the ideas here that we wanted to bring to light is one, tying in the PRT station. So you'll see at the mouth again of the portal, PRT's graphics, that's their approved new imagery. So to allow people to understand that this is the access point to our light rail station. We've heard this from Scott, who owns East End Brewing, but anyone else that's there, this gets fully exposed to sun in the afternoon, so the introduction of sunshades. You can see that here. What you can also maybe see is that's a very long street seating wall along the planter. So there's a proposal for public art there. So as you're coming up, this is really a gateway into Mount Lebanon. So when you come up, here's an opportunity for public art and introducing the community to folks in that special sort of way. And something I should say before I go much further is these are high-level conceptual plans. There's a lot more work that needs done, and we're going to talk about that. But I just want, especially for folks at home, the images you're seeing now are conceptual. They're not dialed in, and meaning that there's still a lot of decisions that need to be made. So what you see here gives you a flavor of the intent, the design intent. But it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to see the particular mosaic on the seat wall, those types of things. So I just want to be clear about that.
Sorry, one of the things I see is a lot of greenery, like, I don't know, I call it a vine wall. I don't know if that's the proper term, but beyond the clock, it looks like vines on an arbor of some sort. But I haven't seen anything in your elements that mentions the greenery, so I wasn't sure quite what the thought was.
That already pre-exists. So that's sort of a green wall, if you will. So there's a trellis that's already exists that came with the Vibrant Uptown project. And this is just sort of showing that fully developed with the landscaping as it grows. So that actually is something that exists currently. And you'll see that grow as the vegetation matures. But a lot of the greenery that you see in this particular location exists via the Vibrant Uptown project. What's new in this photograph, again, is the concept of the sun shading, which is important for anybody that's been in that plaza. And I know many of the commissioners have been for various celebrations and other things, or maybe you visited the tap room at East End. It gets pretty wicked hot out there. So that helps address that.
Apparently I haven't, I don't realize there's a trellis there.
You'll have to spend more time at East End Brewing, and they have delicious pizza. The other thing that you can see on this image by the mouth of the portal is also an information screen, so an interactive screen. It can show the schedule of the PRT station. It can also show community events, things of that nature. So the portal is a really exciting opportunity to celebrate coming and leaving Mount Lebanon, but mostly we like to think of coming. Right now, it does have some architectural design features that are worthwhile. It does have a barrel vault, it has something called an oculum towards the end. But other than that, it's a fairly utilitarian space and really doesn't celebrate or reflect the community, in our opinion. So working with the steering committee, and I should have mentioned that, I'm sorry, when we first started, the steering committee was instrumental in helping us Sherpa these concepts through the public engagement process. So I just wanted to mention that.
We also heard that people from the public, from surveys and things, that this staircase felt dark even during
yeah.
the, especially during the daytime even. And it was hard to find, some people didn't even know that there was an elevator there, so.
Yeah, and thank you, Sarah, and I think this image kind of illustrates that. So through the planning process with the steering committee and public engagement and a survey, which also had a very robust response, I put that in the commission packet and memo, we had around 1,300 responses. So again, I hear there's sometimes survey fatigue in this community, but I've not experienced that. What I've experienced is residents do want to share their thoughts and their opinions, and this survey, again, was another example of that. We had a very strong response with 1,300 folks responding. But as we went through, yes, it is a very dark, cavernous space. And so, what we were proposing is lifting that space with theatrical lighting, underlighting in the rail, the introduction. There was some discussion about adding a mural that celebrated the community. On the right side of this particular image, we see sort of like a trolley. That's a static treatment. What we thought was, we're doing the Gobo Color Walk public art project. Why not keep riffing off of that and use the Gobo projector so that we can always have a refresh of what's in that corridor. You can see enhanced railing also on the right-hand side. And then as we try to encourage alternative modes of transportation, meaning, walking and biking and whatnot, the introduction of the Rundle there makes it a lot easier for folks that are commuting and using their cycles and other things to get up and down that staircase. But to Sarah's point, this also breadcrumbs you back to the elevator that many folks don't realize is there. So even if you have, you have a need or a use for that, this just helps that experience getting to the elevator much better. So you can imagine this in the evening really being something that pops and sizzles, but it's also will have that same effect in the daytime.
I love this because it's simple and it's effective. I think it's marvelous. I mean, just go with what's there and oomph it, as I like to say.
Thank you. And that's what we want to work off the
Yeah.
good bones of the
Yeah.
existing streetscape and,
Very
and
wonderful.
what we have.
Yeah,
So,
it's right on.
sorry, there was a little bit of a delay here. So Parsway, the Parsway has come up time and time again over a number of years. For those who don't know, it's the service alley, the alley that runs, to the east of Washington Road. It's below grade, and it's sort of a crazy quilt of different uses and materials and lots of different things. And I think these photographs give you a flavor of the current conditions of Parsway. The municipality owns a portion of the cartway of the alley, but the lion's share of it is PRT property. So just to orient everyone to that. There are a number of dumpsters there. We have a very vibrant business district as it is. We have a number of businesses. So those dumpsters are used by businesses on the east side of Washington Road, but also on the west side of Washington Road, because we do not have an alley over here. So we have a number of businesses there. So that has led to a corral of dumpsters back there, which can, are not exactly the most aesthetically pleasing vessels, but necessary for the active businesses that we have. And then you can see the entrance to the PRT light rail station in the bottom right-hand corner. So again, this just gives you a taste of what the current conditions are. Now, there's a lot here to unpack. I try to be succinct with this because there's a lot on here. But what's being proposed in this particular slide is softening the alley with additional greenery. So bringing some of the landscaping intents that we see on Washington Road down to Parse Way. What you don't see so well on here is the sidewalks down there, if you've ever been down there, are also sort of a crazy quilt of materials. You have asphalt, you have aggregate, you have just a concrete, you have everything. So unifying the sidewalk that's on the PRT property. There were ideas introduced about improving the chain link fence there by adding some public art. And this has come up time and time again, but adding some woven type treatments to soften that experience. Basically creating a screen wall for the dumpsters so that they're not quite as visible, still will allow access for the businesses and the folks servicing those dumpsters, but eliminating sort of the unsightliness of it. There's also been some discussions about marking the pavement better so that folks have particular areas where the dumpsters go so they don't migrate here and there and all over the place, so it helps with our code enforcement issues. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about?
Before you pivot, is this intended to be scalable, as in to say, maybe the replacing the chain link with artistic fencing goes later as opposed to, or is it meant to be all at one time?
Yeah, we'll discuss that in a little bit, Commissioner, but yes, everything that we're looking at today, please look at it as a menu.
Okay.
So, and just like a menu, there are appetizers, there are main courses, there are these sorts of things. So as we're deliberating, we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is going to be a phased project, and as we go through, we're going to be having decision points about various aspects of what's implemented and not implemented, or when it gets implemented. And then I thought maybe Sarah could help talk a little bit about the transition from the light rail station to the portal and some of that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see the number 4 there. What we wanted to do was better connect the portal to the station. And so some of the things we thought was to make it more pedestrian oriented down there. So raising up the intersection, making it like a tabletop.
I was thinking if you raise sidewalk, she's gonna love that.
Hello, a raised crosswalk, oh my, don't let my head blow off, yay!
So raising that, which really, right now you come down to the top of the steps and you're like right in the alley. You feel like you're in this kind of weird, not nice place, and so really, and using the same paving patterns as the Clock Tower Plaza there, to kind of connect that, to lead you up, right? And so there's opportunities to potentially expand the canopy so that, you don't have to you be undercover the whole time. People and public engagement mentioned better bike parking, so we thought bike lockers so that if you really wanted to use public transit and wanted to ride your bike there, you felt much more comfortable leaving it there all day long to get downtown or wherever and then come back. That you can lock it up in a nice a space that won't be exposed to weather or whatever.
A question about the pavers, as much as yes, you're trying to delineate this way to the portal. Buses obviously going through there and just, is that been a consideration of going, these aren't just a couple cars going over?
Right.
And so I don't know if that's been factored in
You
for.
need a raised table, it doesn't have to be like a huge speed bump.
Yeah.
Sprays
It
it.
just, there's
Yeah,
a
bus,
note
they-
about special pavers for that, and I just want to make sure.
There's
that-
no, special pavers is just obviously they have to be strong enough to hold the weight. And if you think of it like Grant Street downtown is all pavers and they've got buses going through that.
I see that door lot where you get.
Yeah.
Well, we're not doing
Yeah,
that.
we're
Not a
so.
brick street.
Yeah, not a brick street, but a paver, probably, yeah. It
Be
would
many
hold
different
up.
materials,
You would design it in a way so that, you've got probably a concrete subbase and then the pavers so that nothing is sinking and lowering and making it
Right.
wobbly.
And there are design standards for these tables,
Right.
for how wide
Wide
they
they are.
need to be for carriages,
good.
undercarriages of
Yeah.
vehicles.
Yeah, okay.
So this would, it'd be according to the
Yeah, this is not the first time this has been, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been.
You know where they have
implemented.
one is at the new eye hospital that is down by Mercy. They have a table right in the, as you're driving in,
Right,
so that you have to slow down
right.
because pedestrians can cross. It's marvelous, it works.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was just
Yeah.
in Boston and Logan Airport has those
Yeah,
sorts of things.
yeah.
Mostly undercover, so you have to worry about the snow falling on them.
Exactly.
It's just, again, I was mentioning Dormont because it's like, that didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not proposing that. And also, just so everybody knows, part of the steering committee, we had folks from PRT. So
good.
we had PRT engagement throughout this process. So they were attended every meeting and were engaged with our discussions. So if there was any red flags, they brought things up to us. And they'll continue to be in the steering committee as this progresses and continues. So those factors would be considered.
Right.
Anything else?
Yeah, other than that, I think, in terms
Yeah.
of, you were talking about adding more street trees and things on the kind of the plan north there. We would propose kind of bump outs to add extra space to screen that parking back there, so it's not just one giant, paved space. It really breaks up the asphalt area, so.
And something else I'll add too is the design intent of Vibrant Uptown. This is one of those areas where it can cascade down to Parsway. So if you go down there now, you'll see sconces that reflect the previous design of Washington Road, those sort of Miami Vice, aqua blue type things. Well, though, if you miss them, go down to Parsway, there are still a few of those there. So this would be an opportunity to refresh that and bring the design elements from the Vibrant Uptown project to down here as well. So that's something else to consider. So now we're moving to Clearview Common and the Alfred Street corridor, and it's something that I've been dubbing the the big idea. And again, to Commissioner Silverman, kind of alluding to what he brought up before, we're about to look at some big ideas and big concepts. Within all of this, there are what I'll call, a la carte, options and very implementable things that we can do starting even potentially as soon as maybe next year. And some others that really are more long-term, long-range thinking. So I just want to preface it before we dive too deep into this. But I think hopefully we're all familiar with Clearview Common. This is the parklet at Alfred Street in Washington. It's where Final Fridays are held, as well as many other things. We've had weddings here. We've had lots of different things. And folks, enjoying lunch or just trying to get off the hustle and bustle of Washington Road. So it's very difficult to see the pie chart, but it was, you can see one of the things that we found, and it's not shocking, but was, it raises an eyebrow. It's not really used that much. And, we have some weddings there, and you will see people sitting there, and you'll see teenagers, hanging out and with their friends and things of that nature. But it doesn't function in the manner of a true park, meaning, you just don't see people that are spending a significant amount of time there or any time at all. And the survey work and the interactions we had, the intercepts we had with the meeting in a box that I did and our public meetings, what became clear is that, and this pie chart reflects that, is it's not used as much as we would like it to be. And so there's a real opportunity there to enhance that.
Offline, I'll have to ask you to describe a meeting in a box. Sounds
Oh,
like.
I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, that's a very clever term from the Pashik Posse. Basically, it's sort of a charrette on the road. So they prepared a series of materials for myself and steering committee members to go out into the community. So I went to the rec center, I went to the library, went to a number of places with this kit, this meeting in a box.
So more of the pop-up.
A pop-up
all
charrette.
The props
You have
and
everything
charts
you
and
need.
whatever, okay.
Exactly.
It sounds like you're meeting in a phone booth.
No. It's hard, well, if I could find a phone booth, maybe I would do that. But it was a really great concept and that Patrick brought to the table. And so that was just another way to engage people. And we had cards to hand out where they could go and do the survey. And I think that really drummed up a lot of interaction via the survey. So, that was just something that, a lot of people expressed us. They're like, I don't really go to Clearview Common. Maybe if there's a First Friday or something, but now I don't go there, why would I? So we were trying to tease that out, or what would make you go there, and what would make it a destination, and not just a pass-through or a special event area. So there's a series of concept elements here, but these images paint out sort of 3 different scales of what can be done, and we're going to walk through. We're really going to spend a lot of time on the big idea. So I'll save that for when we get to those slides. But the first 2 slides are really just saying if you use the existing footprint, there are things that can be done. So the sunshade is another thing. If you've been to an event at Clearview Common, it can get wicked hot there, uncomfortably so. So you can add landscaping elements to soften, the experience, but also add shade. But sunshades, you see them everywhere, and there's a reason for that. It's getting hotter, and it provides relief from that. So the first 2 images, and Patrick can fill in anything they wish, but they offer just some concepts, basically using the existing footprint of the current parklet. And a lot of it has to do with additional seating, landscaping, the sunshades, and some re-articulating a water feature.
And we showed these at our kind of first, one of our open houses, and several things kind of came out through both the survey and that open house. And one was that people wanted, more shade, wanted more green space. It was not big enough, so we couldn't host, larger events there. Couldn't do any markets there have vendors there, food trucks or anything. And it wasn't super welcoming. You the crosswalk up at that corner is kind of awkward, and you come and the fountain is right there, and the cross slopes and angles of the sidewalks are not super accessible, and so those are all of the things, lots of several of things that we heard. And people overwhelmingly really liked Concept C here, which really expanded the park, added more green space, added a variety of seating was another thing I think people were really interested and excited about. Not just, benches, but tables and chairs and other types of seating that allows people to have a variety of, experiences.
And just to riff on that a little bit, I've heard that time and time again. One of the questions I get all the time is, why don't we do the farmers market down there? Because they don't want to be there, and it's that simple. It's below grade. You're shoehorning them in. It's very difficult to program anything there aside from a concert. It's really designed right now as more of an amphitheater with the pavilion. But when you try to do again, for the farmers market, things like that, which we've tried, it always fails. And so, we've adapted and we've adjusted, and the Uptown Farmers Market is what it is and where it is. But there's opportunity to use the space for things of that nature. So this is getting in to the big idea. This is sort of a bird's eye view of it. And it's not just about expanding the park in terms of footprint. It's also about creating a much larger zone of interest. So so let's start up at Alfred Street. So you can see on this picture, hopefully you can see it, there's a call for a change of material on Alfred Street on the cartway. Also eliminating the curb so that the street becomes level. It's Commissioner Flynn could help me, or someone else that's better, Vorn Orf. so I'm not gonna say that again, but it's a really good,
You missed your opportunity to say it.
but the concept is fantastic. So you're really creating a level playing field, and you're really creating almost, you're providing a space that really is more pedestrian scale and pedestrian friendly. You can't change the grade there. You know, one of our favorite things to say is this is Mount Lebanon, not flat Lebanon, and this is at a 14% grade. But at the very top, you see like number 3, there's an opportunity there to sort of terrace and create little pocket bench seating opportunities where people could sit. Some folks even mentioned adding a rail potentially to the property. We would have to speak to the property owner, of course, but adding some assistance so when people are walking down or up that hill,
Yeah, they
you
have a
know,
rail.
a rail,
Sure.
which would be helpful. So, and then again, that change of material. So when you're coming from Parsway or coming from Washington Road, when you enter this zone, you know, you really feel like you're entering something special. It's not just a pass-through street. It's actually a part of the park. Also, excuse me, you can program that a little bit better. For First Fridays right now, we put up the sawhorses and Sparky shows up in the fire truck and that type of thing. That's great. This just opens that up for a much better circumstance when you have a crowd of people for a larger scale event. It does, moving to the other side of Parsway from the existing buildings there, Eden's Market and such, this shows the Clearview Common expanding to the north into the parking lane that's currently there, so seizing that opportunity. It's clear from this picture that it's also looking at the Alfred lot and reimagining what the lot could be and essentially doubling the size of the current Clearview Common Park. And we'll get into the programming and details of that in a little bit. I just want to give you a broad overview of this. But adding new water features, additional landscaping, as Sarah alluded, additional seating options, a plethora of seating options above and beyond you know, just tables and chairs, and really softening this up and making this an oasis point as opposed to a sidewalk on steroids with a pavilion in the middle of it. So this is where, you know, the imagery starts to, you know, really sizzle. I think when you see these dimensional pictures, it speaks a million words about, you know, the design intent of what's possible. So again, and I'm going to start to the left, which is currently the Alfred lot. So again, we heard from people, they wanted different options to sit and talk to their loved ones, friends, whatever the case might be, and looking for different ways to do that. So on the far left, you can see some swinging benches, which offers a very relaxing opportunity to sit and you know, enjoy a conversation or a meal or just people watch, whatever the case might be. You see sort of a green lawn area, which provides a space for people to just simply picnic or spread out or, you know, throw a frisbee, a very small frisbee, but they can do that. A micro disc. There's a series of blocks there. That's sort of a placeholder for the opportunity for adding some sort of public art element to the area. A water runnel, basically a cascading water feature, which provides visual interest, but also adds an audio stimulation and kind of deadens the sound of Washington Road. So it really gives you, again, I'm going to go back to the word oasis, you know, creating this more of a pedestrian oasis point in the middle of the central business district. You can see an additional water feature on the far right by Alfred Street, creating almost like a stream, if you will. There's another water feature you don't see so well here. I think we can see it better in another picture. So there's a series of water elements that are introduced. Again, additional landscaping elements. But the big takeaway for me on this is that this space is a lot more attractive for someone that wants to spend some time uptown. Again, that's a lot of the intent of placemaking. We want people to stay here, not just come to Totopo, grab a burrito and split. You know, hang out here, come up, eat that burrito on the lawn, or just come up here and hang out with friends, really making sort of a destination piece. The pavilion doesn't move. So the pavilion becomes sort of a fulcrum for this reimagined Clearview Commons space.
Vehicular entrance is off of Central Square, which is right above the pavilion in this image. And that's how a food truck or all the farm market vehicles could get in. And this, you can see that this really enhances the amount of flat, available space for vehicles, should that be needed.
Yeah, and there's room for probably about 14 vendors. So if you think about a vendor having like a 10 by 10 or a 12 by 12 tent, so we can fit up to probably about 14 vendors in the scheme on the paved area around the pavilion and within the pavilion. But this also, kind of opening up right now that there's a stone wall on the backside of the pavilion. We'd want to remove that to kind of make it flow back and forth so that it feels more open. And if concerts were to be held here, they could face one way. And I know some people, with their kids who don't want to be in the really blaring air can be in behind it and play and do whatever in the background and not be right in front of the speakers. So it gives you a variety of potential experiences. That one water feature along the back side where the alley is kind of acts as partly a screen, but also kind of a backdrop over there, as Eric said. And what we heard from the public was that the sculptural piece, and again, we just put a placeholder there, they wanted to have some sort of interactive sculptural piece. They didn't want a play sculpture piece, but something that kids and families and whoever could still interact with it and be interesting and not just something static.
The pavilion were not used for music, big tables, something, just another shady spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's currently used now. We still have, believe it or not, the furniture there from COVID, which was bought at Target. And believe it or not, some of it is held up, which is a miracle. Yeah, that's already happening. People are smart and they figure out where to go.
I just want to make sure that stayed in the plan, so it's good.
Yeah, and so, and again, I mean, people will find a way and will interact with spaces as they see fit. And what this does is just creates that, it sets the table for that type of interaction with the commercial district that we currently don't have.
If I may add one more thing, it's about shade. Because we certainly heard, that people feel that it's too, relentless. The sun can be too relentless. So this provides the swing garden shade. The pavilion, to your point, Mr. Silverman, the pavilion provides that shade. And then you'll see a view, well, obviously more trees. And then you'll see a view in a subsequent slide of the shade structure that's on the right in orange and yellow on this image. So it provides many opportunities for shaded seating as well as full sun seating.
Great, thank you.
I'm a little concerned about ADA accessibility. Seen an awful lot of steps, and I know how awful that intersection is.
Yeah.
Now that was created, this is how far back I go, back when Mr. Harrod was Director of Public Works, when he seeded a lot of that road over to PRT to widen it so we could have the buses that were bifurcated in the middle, which we don't have and never have had. And I'd like to see us really concentrate on pulling that closer in so people in wheelchairs have a way to get in and out.
Yes.
Because there's just nothing here right now.
Yes. Yes, we've, I think, I don't know if it shows it in the next.
Yeah, let me advance.
Yeah.
This is a lot of what we spoke of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just as a close-up of that.
And it's hard, you can't really see it.
It's
Yeah,
difficult
see, I
here,
see
but
it.
there is a notion, to your point, Commissioner, that especially, by the fountain, that's a very precipitous grade as you go around that. And there was discussion of, feathering that out and finessing that to the best that
we
you
have.
can to create a better grade for folks to access that.
You really need to.
And part of that, we're able to do that, one is, moving that fountain and
Yeah.
creating more of an open entrance, but also reducing Alfred down to one way and getting rid of that
Right,
parking lane
getting rid of it,
allowed
yeah.
us to really widen that area and make it, a little bit flatter and easier to get in.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Sarah brought up a good point, I was gonna get to it eventually, but yeah, Alfred Street would become a one-way street under this big idea
Yeah.
concept leading from Shady up to Washington Road, and again, PRT was involved in that, so we had those discussions about that turn radius, which came up during Vibrant Uptown as well. But, again, the scope of that project really wasn't addressing the things that we're looking to address now.
so it'd be one way from Shady up to Washington?
Yes.
Right.
So the buses would come out of Parsway,
Sure, yeah,
turn
no, I
right,
understand,
and
yeah.
then,
Yeah, just
So
had to.
they have to go up
Alfred
Alfred to turn on to Parsway and then to go
Yeah.
up and, to get to
If
Washington
PRT's fine with that, that wasn't a question.
PRT was, yeah, that was the preferred
Yep.
for that, and again, these are all high-level conceptual plans, so.
No, I know, yeah.
Just before anybody, I don't want anybody like thinking that, we're breaking ground tomorrow and changing all this stuff, so I just want to be very, very clear about that. So these are, again, concepts, but through the course of the planning study, that was what was the preferred notion, and it just, it reduces the amount of traffic that's going there and the opportunities for folks to potentially get themselves in a bad circumstance with a vehicle. But it also allows for a lot of the design elements that we're discussing, and how it can be programmed, and really making people first and the car not as.
In some perspective from Commissioner Sparker Wilson, who's been around a little bit longer than I have, that, no, it just, I'll talk about age, just the street used to be narrower. And I think for everybody who's newer going, what? It's like, it was narrow, then wide, we're perhaps returning to its original size.
Yeah, it's sort of, like nature, things right size and, can correct themselves, and, perhaps this is a correction from some decisions that were made many moons ago that were made for good reason,
Yeah.
but, it's a different time now and
Right.
and different ways of thinking of things. So is there any further questions? I know we're taking a lot of time, we have some other folks here, but there's a lot to unpack here, and you're gonna see that here in a few seconds, and I don't wanna speed through these next few slides, because this is really where, no pun intended, the rubber hits the road, but, looking at implementing. So there's a lot of stuff in this, and you received in your packet, and the other thing is, Patrick will be doing a report, which will tease out and further provide narrative and back up to a lot of what we're presenting here this evening. Tonight's more showing the pictures and giving you a sense of cost, things of that nature. But moving to implementation, obviously everything costs money. So there's the notion of raising funding. Obviously, the municipality would be putting some dollars to this project, but we would also be going out to our friends at the state and the county and foundations and other places looking for grants to bring in other dollars. We brought in $1.2 million for Vibrant Uptown, and I anticipate as we go through this process, we can bring in that amount, if not more, as we go through the process. Again, this is high-level concept, so as we get direction from the commission and the steering committee about how you'd like us to eat this elephant, because you don't eat it all at once, you eat it one bite at a time. There are a number of things that need to be done before we can actualize a number of these things. So point 2 of this moving to implementation just gives you some notion of the things that need to be done. So detailed design process, no materials have been picked, no colors, things like that. So there's all of that needs done. Schematic design, design development, and of course, construction documents for various things. There's grading plans that need done. There's work with PRT, especially with anything that would be done with the Alfred lot, because that's near an active rail line, and so there's a lot that needs to be unpacked with that. And of course, the bidding process, and then finally, obviously, construction. So this gives just a nod to some of the potential phasing. I'm just going to say it right now. What I'm hoping to do in the short term is bring some potentially new furniture and sunshade, things of that nature, things that we can start to implement that are scalable and don't require schematic drawings and construction drawings and PRT coordination meetings. so that we can start getting to work on some of this stuff. There's a lot we can do at the portal. There's a lot we can do in Clock Tower Plaza. So there's a lot that we can do with Activate Uptown that we can start doing sooner rather than later. But there are some things in Clearview Common that are gonna require further study, further design, further engineering, and of course, a lot of fundraising. And then we also have other projects that are on the horizon that we need to, I think, take into consideration. So this just gives a notion of some of the phasing, and then there's a lot here with numbers, and again, we could be here for quite some time, and I know we're gonna be having a lot of dialogue and discussion. But these are the opinions of costs broken down into each of the nodes. These were in the packet, but I can quickly go through. They give you the high level number, as well as some price escalation. And then we baked the 30% contingency into this, knowing that there's a lot of, there are known knowns, then there are unknown, that whole thing. So there's some unknowns there, so we put in what would be considered a little bit higher contingency than one would find in a lot of projects. But that's just to provide us some cushion as we go through the next phases of decision making.
If there's interest from commission, would there be naming rights opportunity if someone wants to donate for the so-and-so memorial thing?
The Silverman Plaza.
Is that an offer?
The Memorial Plaza, I want to be here.
Just because you're coming off commission doesn't mean you get.
Yeah, that's not your party gift commission. It could be with for the.
Not the memorial part.
No, we're not doing the memorial, but we'll talk about your checkbook after.
Yeah.
So this just breaks it down, and again, I don't want to
Yeah.
bogart the meeting here, but we'll get to the final one. So I mean, the total elephant is running at opinion of cost at just north of 7 million, and you can see those escalation prices. So the steering committee is still active. That's members of the design committee, members of the mobility advisory board, resiliency advisory board, PRT if I didn't say that already. And this litany of folks on that. So they're at the ready to continue working with us as we do this, as we march down this road. I am going to be putting a few different elements of this into my 2026 budget. Not shocking. And I'll be very pragmatic and with how I do that. This will also be baked into the CIP. So those numbers, now that I have them, we'll be putting that into the CIP. So obviously our finance director and manager will be reviewing those things. But, this is a journey that we're going to be walking on. This is not an overnight project. But there are things that we can do today. There are things we can do tomorrow, and there are things we could do after tomorrow. But this is the Activate Uptown plan.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great work. I appreciate all the effort that went into it, all the public input. It's like an incredible number of responses, very thoughtful. Having got to take part in a good deal of it. It was really great turnout. There's a lot of feedback, and I think what you've come up with would seriously strengthen Uptown. And I think public space is incredibly important for a community, and having vibrant commercial districts means so much, not just in terms of. There's the real estate component. I mean, I think it raises up the property values of everybody nearby, but I think it has such a benefit to the businesses that are nearby. But even more importantly, I think it's great for people to have a place to gather and socialize and makes the community closer. So I really love what's come together here.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I want to thank Pashik. They've been a fantastic subject expert on this project. And I want to thank our steering committee and all the folks that participated in that. And I would just say, if you have questions about why stuff like this is valuable, pick up the most recent Pittsburgh Business Time. Jeremy Waldrop, the CEO and president of Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership, is speaking about Pittsburgh Rising. And one of the big elements of his story in the Pittsburgh Business Times is the importance of public spaces and what differentiates a great community versus an average community. And it's these types of projects that make great communities.
I have seen lots of these, right, in my time in one way, shape, or form. I don't think there's anything that we can do in our public spaces that would be more impactful than this. And frankly, I would rather prioritize this over any other want to have project. If we need to come up with $8 million, I would rather say, let's get it done in the next 3 years, rather than wait. Because to everything that Commissioner Siegler said, to what Eric said, to what I know Pashik would say, this really is important to the vibrancy of our community and the long-term value of our community, and reinvesting in the infrastructure in ways that's going to set the stage for the next generation to want to be here. I don't see I mean, we could talk about investing in recreation, and I admit that recreation is important. But if we think about when people come together, whether it's farmers markets, whether it's, the pumpkin patch parade, you name it, right, Final Fridays, we need a shared civic space that brings people together in what is truly the heart of our community, and that is Uptown. Investing there is the right thing to do. So my question is how can we accelerate it? Not how can, because the other thing that Eric said at the very beginning of this is that we've done lots of studies about this. I don't want to do more studies, and I don't want this to go stale. And that is the nature of these projects. Fundamentally, this will sit here for 10 years. And we'll say, it was a great project, but we need to do it again. At some point, we have to be willing to put money into this. And I want it sooner rather than later because it really is that important.
I look forward to working with the commission to move things forward.
Grand.
Excellent.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Mr. Grella, did you have any thoughts?
Nope, I think everyone covered it. Great presentation. Overall, I think, just looking back, I don't know, Eric, how long's it been since the first placemaking presentation was submitted with, I think it was like a park in that parking lot. I think this design is much better and would provide a lot more opportunities for residents. So I agree with what everyone had said thus far.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Sarah, thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Oh, and
Patrick
there's,
Posse, thank you.
there's some scrolls here.
Papyrus?
Yes, and they're on papyrus, so vellum.
All right, Gateway is coming in for some stormwater planning and project updates.
Yeah, coming in hot, given the time.
Good evening, Commission. We can cover our items, I think, within the time left. It depends on how fast or how many questions you have. Josh Scanlon's here with me tonight. Two things that we want to cover are the stormwater and the capital planning items. And then secondly, talk about the other item we have is the current project list that's going on.
Okay,
So,
let's see.
share here. Okay, so the questions that came up the last time were related to really where do we stand on some of the stormwater items. So what Josh did was he updated the stormwater capital report. It was the most efficient way to do this. And really, this is the report that we give the commission every year. It's just a monument of all the stormwater work that's been done in the community. And then it's a roadmap going forward as to where we want to work on projects. So over the past year since the stormwater fee was developed, there's been about $15 million worth of projects. We still have a fairly good backlog of projects. The last couple of years, we've been a little bit slow because we've been waiting for the fund to build, and there's been a lot of work going on in public works. With that being said, I think the biggest thing Josh wants to talk about is is the current plan and then the, sort of the upgrade we did on some of the ice spots.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Good evening. So I'll run through just a, general summary of the report. Each year, we coordinate with Public Works based on the budget that is allocated, and we based on priorities and what projects need to be done, we're coordinating to get those done. So as we work through this, we strive to take a holistic approach. To summarize this year's work plan, most of our projects this year are driven based off of the road program. And there's a short-term capital report list, project list in this report. It's towards it's the last table in the front end of the project. That lists essentially the short-term projects that we're anticipating over the next 5 to 10 years based on needs of the system. So that lists that system, and in each year ahead of the road program, we're televising the storm sewers through it, and we're identifying pieces of the system that need to be upgraded and rehabilitated ahead of paving any roads. Our intent is to fix them before the roads are paved so that we don't have to come back in the future and dig. So this year's project list entails improvements to Ordell Boulevard. Ahead of the road program, we're installing stormwater infrastructure there to alleviate flooding issues that have happened there in the past. That's a pretty big undertaking that's underway right now. We've done a substantial amount of CCTV work to cover the road programs that's underway right now. We had to do some cleaning of storm sewers in the tennis center. That was in coordination with the capital project there, tennis courts 1 and 2, to convert that to pickleball. So that was, that's looking at the capital project list as a whole and making sure that we're taking care of the underground stuff ahead of everything you see. And then we had some various storm sewer lining projects that took place ahead of the road program, and those were identified from that CCTV work that we did. So those projects in general pretty much consume this year's storm budget. So those are coordinated with road program capital projects. So that's basically what the front end of this report summarizes. We did go through and update the ice spot list, and the main takeaway here is, I believe it was 2022, we updated a handful of, we repaired a handful of ice spots. So what I did here was I added those ice spots that we previously repaired. I added them back into this list. They're towards the end of the report. They're the priority 3 storm projects. I added them back into this list for record purposes, so that we can track the progress that's been made over the years with updating these spots. We also coordinated with Public Works to review and update the list based on which ice spots are actually active. They do change as time goes on. It could be driven by groundwater conditions, sump pump conditions inside of homes. Building inspections does a lot to help out with this, where they're coordinating with homeowners and essentially having them tie in the storm systems when they can. So we did that pass of this ice spot list to show what's been done, what remains. Essentially, they continue to be monitored as we do road programs throughout the upcoming years. If there are ice spots within the scope of work for the road program, we do take care of those as part of that effort. So I think at a high level that covers the general updates that were made in this report. I would kind of label this as a draft for right now, being that we're in the middle of construction on a handful of these projects, and as we complete construction, I will update as constructed numbers so that, that it summarizes an accurate cost based on the work that we did. But we are planning based on the budgets that are allocated and have estimates for these projects and cover those.
This may be Commissioner Grella's question. Do you have I'll say, number comparison between where we started ice spot wise and what we have now?
I don't have that explicitly called out in this report, but we have the information and I can prepare that and follow up with that.
Yeah, there's two things that I was looking for. One was the update on the ice spots overall, and I get that we need to track them kind of year over year longitudinally, and that's fine. The other thing I would say is when we created that ice spot list, that has been maintained. And I think sometimes when we do these different reports or we ask for them over different quarters, they tend to get lost inside of narrative reports like this. So I would ask that we update the ice spot sheet and just make sure that that stays up to date, because that's one sheet that we can refer back to. That's also a sheet we can easily filter to see if we've made any progress on fixing them.
Yep, understood.
And we keep that in GIS.
Yeah, we do have these ice spots in GIS where we track them, and then we have that ice spot sheet as well. And I think Commissioner Grella, the ice spot list in this report, it's updated in this report in this narrative, but I understand, I think there's an ice spot sheet on the OneDrive that probably needs to be carried through. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
Yeah, I think it's easier for us to look at that because to get some semblance of what's changed, we'd have to pull up all these different narrative reports, and it's just really time intensive to track through all those things rather than just looking at one sheet. And, I think that's why we created that sheet. It's just easier to visualize in it.
Like one sheet and a line through the ones that are done.
Yeah, there's like a status update item for whether it's been completed. I think there were some notes, comments, budget items on that sheet as well.
Yeah, understood. We have that tracked through an Excel sheet, so we'll be able to update that pretty quickly. I will follow up once we have that updated.
Yep.
So the second item, beyond that, and I'm sorry, was there anything else anybody wanted? So the other item I just wanted to cover was just our approach to stormwater capital and infrastructure planning. I put a memo together from Josh and I to Keith. It basically memorializes what we really do each year in terms of prioritization, of streets to do. And then once we have the streets in line, what are we following up with to make sure that we're taking, as Commissioner Flynn had asked, a holistic approach to this. And right now, we are using prioritization through software. We also look at that list with Public Works and identify if that's the correct list, do we need to move anything up? That's sort of a back and forth, but we do use the software each year to develop the scope of the project based upon the condition of the road. And then we do coordination with other things that are going on, other factors that might drive us. Are there utility companies doing work? Is there any other municipal project going on? Like, for instance, this year, it was a mobility or an issue that was to do some safe streets work on Scrubgrass, and we had a paving that needed to be done before that. So again, that type of coordination that we're making sure we're not, tripping over our own shoes. So we do that, and then we do integrate in, like we talked about, capital infrastructure, if there's anything that makes sense to bundle, as we did on the stormwater project with the road program this year. We bundled in the Ordale work, we take something off the list, we get something done, and again, it's much more efficient that way. And then, as we talked about, we use GIS to make things all come together, keep records, make sure that we do this in the best approach possible to know what we're doing from one side of the street to the next side of the street. And then finally, I think the add-on to this is going to be the mobility and transportation planning part of this. When there is an active transportation plan complete, I think it's going to be important for us to look at that, sort of project ahead what roads are scheduled. And again, when we get into that infrastructure that may be incorporated into streets, that are on the list. That's gonna require a vetting of the neighborhood, make sure we have things lined up so that when we get to the point where we want to pave the road, we have any of those active transportation items covered in there. So I think we do have a good holistic approach to this, and it's working well. It always can be improved, and we continue to look for any comments or anything that anybody has that thinks we can do it better. So that's that. Any questions? This isn't as exciting as colored pictures. I realize that. I'm trying my best.
I'm looking at the audience, they're awake, so this is good, it's all right.
Yeah, nobody's sleeping yet. So the exciting thing is, though, the next part of this is that I told Keith I thought it would be a good idea just to give the commission an update on the 28 active contracts that we have going on right now in terms of projects. So we are making progress. This is a big community. There's a lot of infrastructure. There's a lot of old infrastructure. And of course, there's a lot of projects that come related to that. So just to kick it off, we gave you the list, but we broke this down into different categories. And the first one up here is the point repair contract, lining, and CCTV. This is work that we bid annually or we renew annually. Those projects are moving along. The lining project is already 91% complete. That's good. And the televising is 60% complete. So we've made good progress on those. We're halfway through the year, and we think we're in good shape with those.
The manhole rehabilitation project that's ongoing, that should be complete by early fall. It's about 33% complete right now, based on information that's been sent to us. Root treatment program and the backwater valve program, those are both completed. Those are typically done earlier in the year, and those are completely done.
And then the consent order, we have the big project, two big projects that are going on right now. The first one is our second project to meet the goal line standard. They're approximately halfway through that project. That's one we're doing full length lining of sewers again. We're doing adjustments to anything that needs to be done, and we're doing manhole rehabilitation as a part of that project. So that one's 52% complete. And then we have the Begg Snyder project. This is one where we were fully funded on this one through grants, through GROW grants, and the small sewer and water project. All the excavation work is complete. We're waiting for the contractor to get going with the lining and the repairs to the manholes to complete the project. So that's going well. Then on the road side.
Yeah, jumping into the road maintenance list, we have the crack sealing contract that should be wrapped up this week. They were projected to be done yesterday. Brick streets, it's about 50% complete at this point. Mill and overlay, that's projected to kick off at the end of the month. Road reconstruction is underway. Curb work's been completed on various streets and continues on Pin Oak. And then the storm sewer project is in progress right now on Wardell before they reconstruct that piece of the road. The Rejuvenator project, that's anticipated to kick off at the end of July. And the sidewalk assessment project just kicked off last week, and it's approximately 5% complete, but it just got started.
On the pedestrian mobility and maintenance side of things, the curb work, this is the municipal contract for concrete curbs in anticipation of the paving program. That's complete. The sidewalk root control program, contractor's working on this currently. We didn't have an actual percentage complete, but he's making progress. Washington Road, the accessibility pedestrian system upgrades. This is an upgrade to the traffic signals. Work's ongoing with this, and materials have been ordered, and once they're brought in, they will be installed. The ADA ramps, we're waiting on those to be determined on the go-ahead notice from SHACOG. We do that through SHACOG. And we have both the 2024 ramps and the 2025 ramps to be completed once Shaycog gives the okay.
Where, oh, I see, Bear Hill. Never mind.
The recreation projects, the pool filtration, we're looking to get a pre-construction meeting scheduled sometime in July here, that's being coordinated. And then that work would begin in September. That would cover the electrical component as well. Tennis courts 3 and 4, the site work portion of that project has been complete. What's ongoing right now is the Hartrue work. That's projected to be completed at the end of this month. There is also this is actually summarized in the Excel at the end, but there's tennis courts 1 and 2. Those are being converted to pickleball. That will happen after the completion of courts 3 and 4. There's also lighting upgrades that are being coordinated in conjunction with that. So there's some moving parts down there right now. That'll also be coordinated with the mill and overlay piece on Cedar. And then Meadowcroft Park is also ongoing, and that's projected to be complete before school begins.
On the miscellaneous sides of things, we have obviously the boiler and the rooftop unit to be replaced that the commission awarded those contracts. They've been awarded, materials are ordered, and they will be installed upon receipt of the equipment. I think the last one is the work related to the garage and the public works facade improvements. Those contracts are all executed, and we're waiting for the contractors to get started on those. It's anticipated sometime here in July on those, both those projects. And then the Woodland Sidewalk project has begun, so get ready to get phone calls.
Oh, I already had.
Yeah, so it's never fun working in people's front yards, so just
No,
keep that in mind.
That's it. We're redoing part of the street at the same time. Let's do it, so.
This is a great summary. I mean, really, it's very nice you
Yeah,
guys
it really
put
is.
this together. I mean, it's
It just shows there's, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of work going on and a lot of effort, so.
really good, straight play-by-play. This is good. Well done.
One additional piece of information just related to the lining program that we do every year based on a conversation we had. Gateways worked with PIO to draft some language that will be posted on our website. We'll also put some mapping similar to what we do for our road program.
Yeah.
Again, just trying to get more information out to the residents. We're also having the contractor provide us with a list of all properties that receive notification. So
Great.
again, trying to improve.
Communications and art.
Standing.
Great. Thank you much. We'll push off board updates to next meeting. Great. See y'all in there.
Adjourn?